A big hello and a very warm welcome to Brand Equity with me, Sonali Krishna. As you can see today, I'm not at the studio. I'm in fact in Bangalore at the Tata Consumer Products Company headquarters right here, sitting with the president of South Asia. That's none other than Puneet. I have a host of questions that I'm bursting to ask him. Hopefully, he'll be able to answer them, and this will be a candid and extremely informative conversation about the beverages spaces, not just in the Tata stable, but of course across India. Thank you so much, Puneet, for joining me right here in this wonderful office of TCP. This is the first time I'm coming here. The last time I interviewed you was unfortunately online when we were in the deep throes of COVID.
Right. Thank you for having me, and thanks for coming over. It's a pleasure to host you.
So let me just start with how things have changed since 2022, my last conversation with you.
Right.
It's 3 years later. Right. It's actually exactly 3 years later, because I remember when I interviewed you, you were doing this fantastic experiment of playing Holi on the metaverse.
Right.
And that we had an extensive conversation about that. But cut to 3 years later, what would you say are the notable highlights from your position?
So I think a lot of things that were underlying trends in COVID, one can say sort of accelerated.
Right.
Post that. I think a lot of that was specifically, if I talk about trends, I think more in the areas of premiumization.
Right.
We were seeing a lot of variety-seeking behavior during COVID.
Correct.
Especially in the beverage space as well as overall in the food space. In categories like coffee, for example, benefited greatly out of that. So I think once we were out of COVID, those are the trends that really accelerated. There's a lot of focus that has come in health and wellness space, seeking health and wellness from your daily food and beverages. So I think those are some of the things that have got accelerated. And I think while metaverse was the buzzword at that point in time, I think it's got replaced with AI.
True.
But at the heart of it is really about how technology is really how marketers are able to, move forward and leverage the technology and to enhance consumer experiences. And those are some of the big trends, as one can see, which is undergoing right now.
I'm glad you talked about the fact that metaverse is now replaced by AI, and AI is just, people are now obsessed with it. I know that you're trying to do a lot of things with AI when it comes to, your marketing and how you're trying to be personalized and being hyper-local, and that initiative from Tata Tea is pretty visible and palpable. Right. Having said that, before I deep dive into your initiatives, somebody who's also donned the CMO hat, so is well versed with the marketing arena, and of course now president, wanted to check with you on, do you think the obsession with AI, is a bit over the top?
I think the obsession metaverse was a little over the top. It became a fad. AI started like that. But I think if you see the work that is happening all across globally as well as in India, I think the technology is enabling a lot more use cases. And as and when they are coming, people are finding genuine value on it. So, whether it's about media optimization, content generation, personalized messages and all, at the end, technology is an enabler. So you really need to leverage it in line with your business and marketing strategy.
Sure.
And I think AI is just allowing far more use cases, and brands like us are also, trying to do pilots and get a lot more learnings. And we are finding value and scaling up as we go along.
Let's just talk about tea for a minute before we go into the coffee category. And tea, of course, Tata Tea is a legacy brand. I believe you now hold 21% share, right? I think as a habit for Indians, we are pretty much saturated. So the game is really, correct me if I'm wrong, moving from unbranded to branded. That is where the headroom for growth is.
So we are about a 20.5% odd share, depending on which one you look at.
Yeah, exactly.
Strong number 2 player. So I think tea is a universally almost penetrated category in India, almost next to water, in terms of household. But branded tea is just about 40%.
Oh.
So I think the headroom to grow is for branded players and national players is far higher. And I think the opportunity exists at both ends of the pyramid. So while at the mass level, of course, the conversion from loose to branded remains the single biggest opportunity. I think at the premium end, giving consumers more and more experiences, upgrading them, into more value-added offerings. I think so. I think while even in a category like this, which is mass and very highly penetrated, I think the opportunity exists. The other nuance of tea category is really when you start looking at a regional nuance level.
Okay.
Because I think this is one of those categories which where even at the topmost, the number one brand also will be possibly just about double digit or single digit. So even from a, whether you look at a brand play, whether you look at a branded category play, there's a lot more opportunity, and it's a highly fragmented market. So the regional nuances differ a lot. So yeah, we are able to find those pockets of growth and strategically focus on them and try to grow our share as much as possible. Yeah.
So when you talk about these regional nuances, where is most of the unbranded tea consumed right now?
Right. So I think there are pockets like UP is a very big unbranded market. Most of, one can say North, for example, and parts of, central India, you will find a lot of unbranded or a loose tea, as we call it, play over there. And that is where the big opportunity continues to remain on upgrading consumers to experiences. There are, but these also differ. For example, in a state like West Bengal,
right,
unbranded again will be a big segment, but there it is about a quality unbranded segment because of the proximity to tea gardens and all.
Right.
So even within that, there are a lot of these nuances. Then of course there are pockets in South. While South is a very strong branded tea market, but parts of say North Karnataka or parts of Maharashtra. So it all depends on, and that's why I said, while it may appear as one category, I think the more you cut it with and the more you look at it from regional lens, the opportunities come popping up. Yeah.
Is that why the very big focus for Tata Tea to have this hyper local strategy?
Yeah, absolutely, because so there are a couple of things. One is I think our inherent strength as a company has always been on providing tea blends which are very suited to local regional preferences, especially on a flagship brand like Tata Tea Premium, which is almost 1/3 of our revenue in terms of the tea business. And we wanted to leverage that,
sure,
and we found out that consumers, well, obviously they get exposed to one brand. What probably I mean, the reason why they're liking us is because of these variations. So we said, why not bring it out more overtly to consumers? And we pioneered this whole hyperlocal narrative. And in 2019-20, we started this journey, and of course, then COVID came in, and then there was a little pause, and then we have now taken it over. And we have curated probably the only mass player or the first mass player to curate an entire marketing mix, which is hyperlocal, which means our packaging is customized to a state. Our blends are customized to key states. Our TVCs or our advertisement is developed for a particular state, and even the way we plan our media, we don't have one Hindi-speaking market approach. We are curating TVCs, so we have a different TVC for Haryana, for Punjab, for Delhi, for UP, and so on.
That's a lot of work, Puneet.
Yeah, and that's paying very well for us.
So would it be right for me to assume that this hyper-local strategy where you kind of, speak that language of that region to strike a chord with them, because here for the category itself, the effort is to move people from unbranded to branded.
Yeah. It is, but at the same time, in a mature category, of course, you also want to keep engaging with the consumers and, have that brand love build over time.
But you tell me something, sorry, from a layman's perspective, right? Why does somebody want to love their tea brand? Isn't it a matter of habit?
It is a matter of habit.
Why do I want to engage with it?
It is a matter of habit, but at the same time, tea is so ingrained in our culture.
Correct.
That, I mean, you would know, for example, you wake up every day to a cup of tea or a cup of hot beverage or a coffee, and if you don't get that, your whole day feels a little incomplete.
Yeah,
right?
It's an addiction, I would say.
It's an addiction. Now, with such hard habits that are ingrained, how do you get consumer to switch or to adapt to your brand, right? So it can happen with forced trials, etc. But you really need to rise, you really need to be not just in a consideration set, but you need to engage with the consumers for them to even consider your brand and do either a brand switch or move up the, value ladder, so to speak. Because beyond a point, tea is tea. So that is why you need to, while you may offer very rational attributes, you need to connect emotionally, or for the consumers to make that shift.
I mean, would I be right in saying that a coffee brand or a tea brand which you're used to drinking for, let's say, decades,
Right.
Is your comfort brand? To make a
Right.
change, to make you change
Right.
that brand,
Right.
it has to be a really compelling
Right.
kind of promise
Right.
that you're giving me.
Right.
How hard is that for you?
So I think for the core user,
Yeah.
these are habit products, but the switch does happen a lot more frequently than we all think.
Oh, okay.
And multiple factors are there. Sometimes it's just about physical availability. I remember when long before I joined, Tata Consumer Products or Tata Global Beverages at that point in time, we were a Tata Tea Premium user, and once we went out, and the retailer said, "Why don't you try this Tata Tea Gold?" And the retailer convinced us, and we switched. And ever since then, we've been users for that. So that is, sometimes physical ability can be a reason. Sometimes different house, but now everyone is within a house. People are also moving out of joint house, family structures into nuclear families. People coming into and adding as a family member. Everyone brings their own taste and preferences. So even within a single household,
Sure.
whether it's a joint or nuclear, you might find people bringing in different preferences.
Right. Right.
So people are switching and are experimenting. And the idea is, when they do, you are there in their consideration set as a key brand, and you are able to tell them that, hey, I'm a great choice. Why don't you try me? And once they're there, you hope that they love the experience, that they can continue with you.
So in your media mix right now, right, how much is mainstream media? How much is, let's say, new age, social influencers, all of that?
So like I said, we will be about a 30-40%, on digital, if one has to go by the conventional definition. And even in, like I said, there is no, for brands like Tata Premium, there's no one-cut Hindi-speaking campaign, HSM market campaign, the traditional way we use media. So it's very curated to the region. There also, in Delhi user, for example, we can target with digital, where digital is no longer just about engagement. So it's a great reach medium. In a lot of cases, the numbers deliver far higher, or at least at par with the conventional media approach, especially to your relevant audience.
Sure.
Whereas, say, in a UP, we would target regional television channels, etc.
Yeah.
So it's a mix of it, but it's broadly in line with where the consumers of today are. And the consumers today are everywhere. So
no, I only asked you this question. I was leading to it because as somebody who has, let's say, even observed the marketing landscape 2 decades ago and seen what a transformation we're seeing in today's media landscape, right? It's a big shift. However, I'm a bit confused about the efficacy of digital media, right? Because people are putting out a lot of content, but how do media agencies calculate that? I've actually seen it. Is a bit, I would say, suspect, right? So while the reach is there, the numbers are there. That's why I was wondering, how would you explain the efficacy of the medium? Yes, it is compared to traditional, I'm defining it the old age way, to mainline media, it is an older, but at least that has a metric system. Good, bad or ugly is up for debate, but at least it has one. The digital behemoths, of course, decide that they are the owners and you are interested in partaking. You partake, but there is no unified metric system. Which is why, as one of the leading marketers of the country, I'm curious to know your point of view.
I would say it's an evolving landscape. First of all, one needs to start with what's your, and I always say this, you have to be more on your return on objective. What is the objective that you have set out to do? And I think the way, at least I personally feel one can navigate this thing is still relying on what's the end benefit that you get out of it. So if your score, for example, are reflecting in your brand equity, strengthening and all, somewhere that medium seems to be either working. I mean, that can be the only surrogate that you have. But we have built-in panels, where, for example, digital efficacy is being, tested or is being evaluated with customized panels, which help us look at what are the effects for these. But yeah, it's an evolving landscape. I think I would say the scrutiny is getting more and more from market. Everyone's asking, the amount of money that where we're putting. Is it really paying for it?
Now, to talk about, this AI bit which is transforming marketing, what are these path-breaking initiatives that AI is doing in marketing?
in the era, say 15, 20 years back or even 10 years back, there was this era of mass communication. You make one ad, you beam it to the entire country or wherever you want, you dub it into
Lucky marketers.
7, 8. Life was very simple. You could measure, you could make a 30 or a 60 second and all. That world doesn't exist anymore.
Sure.
That world has really evolved. I think what AI is helping us do is, customized or create hyper personalized messages. And
can you give me, elucidate that with an example?
Right. I'll give you an example, and
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of how brands are able to engage with it.
Sure.
Very recently, we did we on the World Vitamin Day, we combined the power of a traditional media called print, and we did a AR filter where basically stress is one of the signs that show that you might be vitamin D deficient.
Oh.
So we just ask consumers that why don't you just take a face test using the AR filter, that AR app that we had given, and just show that are you in stress or not. And it took you to, if you are stressed, you have an option to go to a leading, we are tied up with a e-com player, and you can basically, purchase Tata Tea Gold Care, which is fortified with vitamins like vitamin D, etc. So these are very simple examples and use cases where technology is helping you drive a connection much beyond just in a non-AI or a technology world. Somebody would have just seen a print ad, seen the static messaging and just moved on.
But Puneet, I have to then ask you. Let's assume, okay, I've engaged with your brand.
Yeah.
This is very useful to me because
Yeah.
nowadays people are also kind of obsessed with health,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, it says, but what is the guarantee that once I engage with you, because this is work, this is engagement I want to, it's beneficial for me, then I'm going to buy your tea.
Right. So, see, marketing at the end of it, there's no guaranteed success on, everything will leading to the sales. I think marketing is really about
brand
strengthening those memory structures. Byron Sharp also says that, and in various, it's really about so that when the user is out there to buy a brand or interact with the category,
correct,
you're featuring very, very closely over there.
Okay, got it. I'm glad you brought about Byron Sharp. I'm a great fan of his. But today hyper-localization, personalization at scale is a statement I hear in every interview.
Right.
And when I spoke to Byron, he said, he kind of threw that theory on its head and said, it's ridiculous because if you're doing personalization at scale, you're kind of eliminating a large cohort which would have otherwise gotten your message, but now you're eliminating that because you're kind of minimizing and narrow slicing your kind of TG.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
I mean, first of all, very hard to disagree with Byron in general.
You are a practicing marketer.
But see, I would just put it in a different way. For example, and I would bring this out with an example, okay? We have a brand called Tata Tea Gold Care, which is made of goodness of natural ingredients, very relevant during monsoon season, or when consumers, that search tends to go up for this kind of a chai, which is a value-added tea. Now, what we did with personalization, just to bring that out alive, a consumer who's sitting in Calcutta and a consumer sitting in Bangalore probably have different food habits and pair up tea with very different cuisines, so to speak, right? I mean, that's very clear. Somebody in Calcutta may have it with bhaji, the user in Bangalore may have it with something different. Now, it's the same message that is given that during, so what we did is, we did the weather-based triggering, creatives. So when we found that, okay, humidity is high in the air and there is chances of rain, the message being delivered to an audience in Calcutta when this is happening and in Bangalore is about having Tata Tea Gold Care, but it is customized from a point of view that the pairing shown, for example, is why don't you enjoy bhajia with Tata Tea Gold Care, during rains and so on. So that is personalization. So I think in essence, the messaging is the same, but suddenly a consumer sitting in Calcutta finds this far more relevant. How you personalize it lies the trick.
The last year, 2024, across categories, I would say, has witnessed a pretty sharp consumption dip. How did the beverages category, first where the industry category had performed? Was there a palpable kind of noticeable dip in beverages?
So we did find the category slowdown happening. I think the tea category went down into single-digit growth. The food inflation was very high, and I think consumers at this point in time, see, at the end of it, the budgets on every household is under pressure.
Yep.
I think what the overall trend that we found is that the items which are there on a everyday basis, people were downgrading either into low unit packs, and I'm talking about in general in FMCG,
absolutely.
not just about tea.
Yep.
Or they were downgrading to low cost brands or lower cheaper brands, so to speak, while discretionary items were getting cut off.
Right.
So there was a pressure. There was a pressure overall happening. However, there was a different. If you add e-commerce and quick commerce and those kind of channels, you found that there was a robust growth happening. Especially on premium brands and all.
Okay.
So clearly,
so like top of the pyramid really showing.
I think more or less insulated.
Oh, okay,
In fact, trying out newer opportunities, more brands and all. But the mass and belly of the market, and that's where some of our categories, operate on, was a challenge. But in Q3, what we were able to do, and we were able to outbeat the category and the market, so to speak, and our results reflected that.
Sure. I'm glad you brought up quick commerce because suddenly that's I would say upper middle class and the rich are definitely kind of moving into that. And we've stopped stocking up or whatever. Like last week, I interviewed Shogata Gupta from Marico. Right. He talked about GTs under pressure. Are you finding that as well, GTs under pressure?
Yes. So I think what had happened is when quick commerce is exploding, what's overall happening is I think inventory stocking at a GT level, does tend to come down. And there is, of course, capital in the market, etc. And retailers do feel under pressure. But I think if you start reading some of the stories that are coming through, there's a big resurgence happening back also.
For GT?
For GT, in the sense, retailers are, sort of coming together. There is some app-based offerings also that they are, they're starting to offer and all. So I think the dynamics is interesting. But yes, I mean, urban consumers and metro consumers are definitely prioritizing convenience. It's a period of transition happening, and Q-commerce is definitely riding the wave, so to speak.
I'm only asking you that because if I map my own behavior, right, as a customer, pre-quick commerce to now GT and quick commerce, my kirana wala is pretty sophisticated. I just need to WhatsApp and he'll get it. The difference I feel and the unfair advantage with quick commerce is I think companies are giving them different discount deals, right? So I'm a bargain hunter. Right. I'm going to check on Zepto, Blinkit, whatever. If I'm getting a better deal, I'm going to go with it, right? Amazon gives me an even better deal sometimes because they're the next day delivery. But I'm just saying the deals that are offered on quick commerce, right, or even sometimes on e-commerce, vis-a-vis my normal kirana guy, is not the same. And so it's not a level playing field. If he was to offer me the same discount, I may go with him because he'll deliver it immediately as well. Right? So my point is, do you see some kind of unfair advantage for quick commerce players?
See, it's as the channel evolves. I mean, the reality of today is, while of course quick commerce is growing, I mean, bulk 80%, 85% sales still comes from GT, right?
Of course.
And in India, that will remain, a big reality. It's like, when modern trade was coming up in India, that was the same questions being asked.
Exactly.
That people walk in and, they're getting these kind of deals and all happening. But I think what starts happening with these is the consumption and the purchase, behavior starts changing. Modern trade was offering far more, people started experimenting with larger packs, more value, more monthly shopping and all. I think quick commerce is also going through that kind of a thing. So, the kind of assortment, the kind of price play, the kind of SKUs available are starting to, sort of differ from, say, what a regular GT might stock, and at the end of it, your GT person may have a different kind of a range or an assortment versus, say, what is happening in Q-commerce. It's not about just discounts, because what is also happening in Q-commerce is, interestingly, a lot more brand switching or new category adoption behavior, etc. is happening. Now, you may get the first or a second purchase from that, but over a period of time, you may buy the third, fourth purchase from your GT center also. So lifetime value may increase, so to speak. But right now, yes, you're right. The deal-seeking behavior is on. I think there's a lot of incentive.
Advantage customer.
Consumer. Yes, at the end, customer is winning,
Just quickly pivoting to coffee, because I don't want to leave you without talking about coffee. While I know that it's still a very nascent play for you, right? What have been your learnings in the coffee game?
Oh, it's been great. I think when we started focusing on this category from 2000, I would say 17, 18 onwards.
Yeah.
It was, the common thing was, South is a dominant market for coffee.
Correct.
The rest of India is still loose.
Yeah.
I mean, today is actually the momentum is shifting, or one can say a lot of value play is coming from rest of India versus the South.
Wow.
And the reason for this is because it's a nascent category, even in general overall. It's 1/10 the size of tea category in India.
Yeah.
And for users, just for generalization or for simplification, outside South are not as ingrained in this coffee category as they are. The experimentation is very high. And what we have learned, in fact, one of the reasons why our portfolio is doing really well on coffee is outpacing obviously tea on a very small base, is because we have strengthened our innovation pipeline. So people are experimenting with, there are people, so we've launched products like coffee filter decoction. Consumers who want the taste of filter coffee but don't know, how to make it, don't have, are time starved and all, are able to experience that. Premiumization in coffee is playing a role because there are no set price points. Consumers are not aware of, what price of coffee, is real for them. So they want experience, and they are going into cafes and experience. And rest of India, a lot of coffee experience came from cafe cultures, right? And then they want those experiences back at home. So a lot of innovation is happening in the coffee. That has benefited us a lot, apart from just, standard offerings in coffee. And that has really helped us scale up. So our innovation to sales ratio among coffee is one of the highest.
What can we look forward to from the Tata Consumer stable in 2025?
I think we have we are really, first of all, I think we acquired Organic India, Capital Food. So we are really scaling up those businesses. I think there's a big opportunity in Organic India, for example. A lot of consumers are out there seeking products, coming from that mindset. And it's not just one brand, you're into multiple categories. So I think there's a lot of action happening on sort of these categories, the scaling up of these categories, so to speak. Apart from that, this whole, distribution system that we have put in place is now really, we're leveraging them to expand our play in health and wellness, for example, getting into more outlets. We have products that are, we are finding a lot of traction in e-commerce, and we are using them to how we can leverage this in GT, etc. So that's something to look forward to in FY25.
Fair enough. On that note, Puneet, thank you so much for taking time out.
Thank you, Sonali. It was a pleasure talking to you, and thanks once again for coming over.